Hello and welcome back to episode 27 of Heroic Stats and Any Heroics podcast. My name is, of course, Stephen Denby, the captain of Any Heroics, the only GBHL team where we select our captain based on their ability to win tournaments, specifically in the Southwest, Chippenham, Warminster and Bristol area. I am joined today by the intern, who I actually haven't seen for a couple of weeks. Nice to see
I'm
you
getting
again, John.
withdrawal.
Just kidding. It was literally last weekend. And we've got an extra special guest from Mountain Goats Gaming, all the way from down under, Mr. Jay Hansen. Hello, Jay.
Morning, how are we?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Jay, about the channel, the hobby, I don't know, whatever you get to at nights, your number plate.
Yeah, all that. I've recently joined the game probably in the last 2 years. I've come from Warhammer 40,000, and randomly my mate just started picking this up, so we started throwing some dice on his kitchen table with Goaty and a couple of Angmar models, and I think we fell in love with just how the game works and the mechanics and the little, nuances, throughout. And it was a really nice, refreshing change to come to boards that have love and care put into them rather than the 40K. Here's a bit of MDF here. Oh, by the way, you can walk through this, like little little things like that. They made the difference for me. And Jesus, I've spearheaded pretty hard into this hobby now. I've got like 3 cabinets full of all armies, and I've just really gone into it, which has been nice in terms of a hobby progression as well. I've put a lot more care and time into painting all the details in my models rather than just airbrushing and smashing out 200 gaunts and putting them on the table and all that sort of stuff. So I've got addicted really quickly.
Yeah, I found the exact same thing, kind of moving over from 40K where the meta changes. Like if you want to be competitive in 40K, it's monthly. There's a new hot army every single month. Whereas Lord of the Rings, because it moves a lot slower, you can take a lot more time with your armies, build, crack display boards, do all sorts of things.
Yeah, I was going to say, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say you guys have both had very similar experiences in that. So John's an old friend from school who I knew as the nerdy competitive 40K player. Just kidding, we're all nerdy. We played Lord of the Rings. Who was then suddenly turned up at this tournament that I was going to in Cardiff. Like it's kind of like the UK opener for the year. And he was like, "Oh, I'm going to this," and I was like, "Oh, really?" And then suddenly this 40K player became an SBG player, sold all his 40K, bought every single army, and is painting it all. It's a similar level of enthusiasm.
And it's probably my favorite challenge is actually finding the original metal models. It's not as easy as it sounds, and there's a little, I don't know, like a little fetish in there for me that I'm just frothing. If I can find the actual metal model for an army, I'll take that any day of the week. It's just so bloody hard to find.
I rely on our new sponsor, LOTR Bay.
I was going to say, John is so strong that all of his metal models just appear strangely light, almost resiny in quality, some might say.
Yeah.
Not that we could, of course, comment on that. But we will be putting links down to Mountain Goats Gaming in the description. Please go check them out. New channel with Mr. Sean Risotto and obviously Jay, Sean of oh my God. I forgot the name of the channel. Last Alliance of Noobs and Men. Oh my God. We had like a whole thing. We sent each other stuff. Oh, don't tell Sean that just happened. I'll be so embarrassed.
Just edit it out, Stephen, so it looks smooth.
Jay is Sean's new fling after leaving Liam to move up to Queensland. Is that right?
Yeah, so I live in Queensland. Sean moved down to Victoria. So both Liam and I are in Queensland. Sean moved down, and then Sean just had a change of heart. He decided he was a goat.
Gotcha. I see.
From nerd to goat.
But talking of goats and champions, we are of course here affiliated with the wonderful, if my PowerPoint will work, the wonderful Seventh City Collectibles. Go check them out in Nottingham for all your wargaming, Lorcana, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, scenery painting goodness. They do, of course, buy and sell secondhand armies. So if you're ever in the area and you want to get rid of some of your old stuff, you can trade it in for a enhanced rate with store credits, or of course just some cold hard cash to buy some more minis with. Big shout out 7 City Collectibles, big fans. But without further ado, let's move on to the events of the weekend. You'll work out why Jay's on the podcast in a couple of minutes when we get to the second event of the weekend. But first of all, we had the Guardians Call to Umbar, hosted, of course, by our very own Lord and Saviour of the GBHL, Mr. Dewey Evans. He's, of course, the league coordinator, my boss / father. It was hosted in Chippenham, which is not too far from Bristol in the southwest. 7 games over 2 days, 550 points, with 6 of the games being random from pools, so each pool selected once, and the very last game being one of any of the 12 remaining scenarios. It was a right laugh, as it always is with Dewey's tournaments. He always runs very tight ship. Haha, fun. And yeah, if you ever have a chance to go to Dewey's tournaments, please do. He's been on the podcast, friend of the channel. And
Dewey's events as well are, I know, Jay, if we say English tournament scene and terrain, what's the first thing that comes to your head?
Let me just grab a blank MDF board out the back.
Yeah.
But Dewey's the one trying to single-handedly change that.
Yeah, I heard it, and they were hyping up his boards as well. It was in like a firing lanes, and you can't just sit in the back of the board and crossbow spam your way through an army, which I think is great. Exactly.
I would say that of the boards that I was on, there was a good 40 to 50% coverage on a lot of them, which you just don't see in a lot of places. Of course, it's all playable. One of the boards I played on was a Battle of Pelennor Fields with dead mummoks and broken siege towers, and even a moving Grond. So it had the little the Grond battering ram on chains, which would swing back and forth, which is just the amount of work that. So Guardians of Wiltshire, for anyone listening who isn't aware, they are obviously based in Wiltshire. Dewey Evans designs and 3D prints a bunch of stuff, and they just have a host of cool boards. They're all themed. When you get to the board, it has a little description of what it is. So if you don't recognize it immediately, just like, this is what it is.
Yeah. I think my 2 favorite ones are, I didn't manage to go this year, but last year there's an Orthanc board with a meter tool Orthanc on it. And then there's an incredible Lothlorien board with the big, are they linden trees or mallow trees?
Yes. In fact,
it's incredible.
There is a Lothlorien board on there, which is based off the Conquest Creations STL files, I believe. That's where they're from. So shout out Conquest Creations. Obviously, one of the really cool channels down in Australia. So not that they need a shout out, but you don't know who they are.
That's a great channel, right, Jay?
Yeah.
Jacob does do some mean STLs. These Kickstarters are fantastic for terrain.
If you're looking for somewhere to get your 3D prints from, whether that is buying them or buying the STL files themselves, go check them out, because there's a host of amazing stuff. It's all playable, designed for MESBG. It's absolute insanity. And if you ever have the opportunity to play on one of the boards, you'll understand exactly what we mean, because roofs lift off, things rip through doorways. It's
Can we add them to our list of sponsors?
If only.
That's really cool though. If Dewey's got all this terrain, like I've got 15 boards myself, and after I do an event, I try very hard to make sure that there's so many different things and rules and interactions that you can use, but you always have to fix little bits of broken tree branch here, or like a top of a building here, like there. If he's got like Grond, for God's sakes, that swings, fixing chains and little bits of pieces on that scale, that's wicked. That's mad respect.
It's safe to say, because he's so Dewey's an engineer, it's safe to say that he might be one of the most dedicated people to enhancing the Hobbit community, at least in the UK, both by being the person that currently runs the league, as well as having been on the league committee for several years beforehand. But just like the efforts he will go to help people out, whether it's lending models, lending terrain to other TOs. Yeah, absolute stalwart of the community. Maybe he'll start paying me for my work soon if I lick his butthole enough.
How many players did this event have, Stephen?
How many players does this event have? This event had 60 players who finished the event. I think there were a couple of dropouts due to illness and family matters. We, of course, the hobby awards, we had the most sporting was Sam Kemp, a absolutely lovely bloke. And we had 3 hobby awards for painting, 1 for best display board, 1 for best mini, and 1 for best army. So we'll go on to that now. Now this is the best display board. I have a video. I'm sorry if the audio is now completely ruining everyone's ears. This is a Battle of the 5 Armies with the wereworm tunnels underneath, which have electronic lighting in, tiny 3D printed Gundabad orcs inside, and then on top it's Thorin, Legolas, and a Lake Town captain. This is from Matt King, and this obviously won best display board. I saw the people looking at this, and it was just, it's got its own built-in dolly, it's got lighting built in, it's got 3D printed wereworms. It's
that's pretty incredible.
It's absolutely insane. Just the level that people go to for the hobby. He said he did this in about 2 or 3 weeks, I think, and just the absolute attention to detail, amazing. I think he won pretty unanimously because I happened to see quite a few of the votes where people hadn't folded their paper in half, and you vote first, second, third, and he was just first.
What an idea, though.
It's really cool, isn't it? We never got wereworms as actual profiles in the game. Maybe we will in the future, but it's really nice just to see that detail added in, kind of the chaos underneath while this army stands. But yeah, shout out Matt. I believe he listens to the podcast pretty frequently. So, and here's just a little close up of. We had some flickering LEDs, which I couldn't quite get good footage of. But like the fires of the Gundabads behind them, it was really
that's
cool.
really cool. Really cool.
Moving on to best mini, it was Mr. Rob Mackey, another friend of the channel, with a Witch King of Angmar. Now the photos don't quite do it justice, but you should be able to see on this one specifically the flame from the sword is actually reflected on the robes, which is just like, as a I would say not the best hobbyist myself, that attention to detail of where the light is coming from and where it's going to reflect on the cloak and whatnot, just absolutely gorgeous. And the base was really nice, and the rock really cool.
I really like you can see the texture on the horse's kind of hair.
Yeah,
like he's kind of textured the horse's skin, which is really hard to do effectively because I've tried, and mine doesn't look anywhere as good as Rob's. So congratulations, Rob. Really nice model.
A heap of straight lines everywhere. It's crap.
I'm just a contrast man.
I've never had a word.
Yeah. And of course, winner of the best army, if you're thinking of a painting award in the southwest of England, it was, of course, Mr. Sean Creed. You can't see a painting competition which he enters where he doesn't get some kind of accolade, with his absolutely stunning Mahud army, which has been doing the rounds for the last year or so. There's a few 3D prints in there. It's had a beautiful display board. These I've just shamelessly stolen from his Instagram. But yeah, absolute kings of the hobby down in the southwest, apparently. Just like the amount of effort that, like, there was an entire Corsair ship that someone had built with black sails. Someone had built an entire Mirkwood board with spider webs in the trees. It was, the attention to detail was absolutely incredible, and everyone who entered had put in a lot of effort into their armies and boards, which was really nice to see.
Yeah, people are definitely stepping up their display board game.
Yeah, well, they saw the meta you set last year and realised that's the way to be winning. But that's enough of talking about hobby stuff. That's not what people are here to listen to, especially if you're on Spotify. You've just heard me ramble about stuff you can't see. In which case, go check us out on YouTube. Onto the list. In third place, Mr. David Bugle. Of course, that's actually Derry Clubley, but he doesn't like having his full name out there because it means the police can track him down. Jay, would you like to run me through this 550-point list, please?
Sure. Starting off, I'm assuming he's got the Shadow Lord as his leader. 5 Black Numenorians, followed by 3 Moradins with shield and spear. Then 2 basic bitch orcs with spear, a single Wag Rider with shield, 2 orc trackers. He's then got Grishnak with 5 more Black Numenorians, 3 more Moradins, shield and spear, a basic orc warrior with the spear, a basic orc warrior with the banner, spear, shield, 2 more trackers. Then he's got the orc captain with no Wag, but just a shield with 5 Black Nums, 3 Moradins with shield and spear, 2 basic orcs with spear, and 2 trackers. 40 models, 550 points.
That is a lot of models at 550 points, especially when 15 of them are Black Numenorians.
Yeah, it's a wild battle line for 550, isn't it?
Yeah, I did play Dave on the weekend. His battle line just absolutely ripped through mine. There was literally nothing I could do. I couldn't charge him. He outfought me. He had enough strength 4 to just crack through. It's just a really, especially at this points level, if you see a single big enemy hero, you've got the Shadow Lord to neutralize it. If you see a lot of shooting, you've got the Shadow Lord to neutralize it. You've got solid courage, solid numbers. You've got a little bit of shooting threat. It is very kind of, it's one of the army lists that he likes to take a lot, is a list with a strong caster and then just a bunch of cheap heroes that if they die, they die, but they've got an opportunity to just kind of get a lot of board control with the models and just stick around. It's just a really solid army.
Do we think this list is better with the Shadow Lord than it would have been with a budget Witch King? I think the shooting defense is so important.
I've actually,
D6.
I've actually started mucking around because we've got a 650 tournament coming up, and I was debating whether to take the Shadow Lord or to take the Witch King. And what I found with the Witch King is, like, I typically would want to play more aggressive because I got the Witch King, and you can do so much more with the Witch King. Get the Shadow Lord with especially with a force that has no singular big hit up. For example, like if you had the Spider Queen, you want the Witch King to guarantee the magic for the Spider Queen to go and punch. But with this one here, it's like, oh, I got Grishnak. So the Shadow Lord, I think, is perfect just to help the army's cohesiveness stay alive. That's all this army wants to do, is just sit in a big old brick, play the mission, and not die. So,
and that's basically what this army did. I actually travelled with Dave on the way back and spent a bit of time on the weekend, and just basically said, "This is what the army's designed to do. Is especially at this points level." If it's being outnumbered, it'll outfight you, and if it's not being outnumbered, then it will shut down your heroes. Grishnak can strike if he needs to, and the Shadow Lord just says your hero's not doing anything. And if you've got a big hero like a Gilgalad, a Gwahir, something similar, that's a third of your army just sat there not doing anything for the entire game. I think it's also worth noting, Jay, at the moment there's a bit of a resurgence in the shooting meta in the UK. Seeing bits of AOL, Corsairs, Isengard spam with lots of crossbows.
A lot of crossbows.
Yeah, so that's why we would see the Shadow Lord quite a bit.
He's premium. He's such a good caster.
Yeah. I mean, he's basically the Witch King without the reroll and a 6-inch black dart instead. But then you also just get the, okay, well, if I've got to fight something that's shooting, I can reliably just take the 2 or 3 turns it takes for me to march up and just survive. There were a couple of Rangers of Athelion and Great Beasts floating around as well. So there was, quite a lot of heavy shooting platforms, I would say.
It's good to 550 points. He's got 40 models. He's most likely going to get the army bonus, more likely than not as well.
Yeah, that as well. I know he also played Contest of Champions. I can't remember who he played against, but I think he won it. Which with the Shadow Lord, who's not the biggest combat threat ever, I'm not entirely sure how he pulled that off. I didn't ask him, but yeah, that's definitely something to be chatting about.
Good going.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a wild farmer joining us, just a little bit late. It's okay. We'd sanctioned it. He's allowed to be late.
Hopefully he realizes we're live and recording and doesn't
say anything horrible,
scandalous
like he always does. Our sun's out, guns out.
The pistols are best. Hello, friends.
Hey, Dave. Quick rundown on this list. What do you think about it?
Oh, it's fantastic, gorgeous. I love Grishnak. Yeah, I think he used Goldberg, but he's explained his reasonings, and I think they're sound. So,
he really likes the backstabbers.
Kind of explain them in Discord, but not. We haven't talked about it on the pod yet. So what is the argument for Grishnak over Goldberg?
So his logic is because he's got the Wraith, he wants to have a hero that will do the killing once the enemy hero is compelled. And in that situation, Grishnak is essentially as good as Gorbag in the sense that if you're fighting one model, you don't get the Orcish Brawler, you don't get the Fight 5, which I think is a sort of narrow way of looking at it, but he likes the +1 to wound, he likes the 5 points cheaper. Personally, I prefer the Courage 4, but that's just me. Well, it's not just me, it's everyone. Bubbly is unique.
Bubbly is unique. Right, what came second?
Moving on to second place, it's Mr. Edward Bull getting yet another podium with Riders of Theoden. Slight disclaimer, I'm not entirely sure about the placement of the Royal Guard. I did actually play Ed this weekend. I think this is where the Royal Guard were placed in the warbands, but it doesn't really matter that much. It's Riders of Theoden, so of course he's got Theoden, he's got Gamling, he's got Daerwine, he's got Dernhelm, and then he's got 2 captains of Rohan, both with heavy armor and shield, so it's the tank captains rather than the spank captains. And then he has 3 Rohan Royal Guard, so no throwing spears anywhere in the army, a total of 10 models, including Merry, 16 might, which is at 550, quite withering to deal with. We saw a total of 12 Riders of Theoden lists.
No, it wasn't. It was 12.
Oh, sorry, no, it was 8. It was 12 Theodens, 8
there were some defenders.
Yes, some scummy defender players.
Scrap at 550.
Yeah, well, clearly because it didn't do very well. I really love Riders of Theoden. I think it's a beautiful list. It does what it does in the films, and that's the most important part. We're seeing a lot of it floating around in the meta at the moment, podiuming and whatnot. Jay, what's the Australian position on the all hero or heavy hero mounted Riders of Theoden? Is it something you guys see down there at all?
Look, yes and no. Rohan, there's like a smattering throughout. In Queensland specifically, we've got 2 guys who are pretty gun-ho on Riders of Theoden. One runs a more character heavy. Yeah, the other guy prefers more like troop heavy, just to have a bit more insurance. They just play very differently. I think they are relatively new to the game, and therefore we don't see it like smashing and dashing as hard as what you guys probably are as well. So, but yeah, I don't know. I played it. It's nice. I just don't like how on a knife's edge you play with this army.
It's very much I think at this point's level, as having played Ed and knowing how he played it, it's very much you wait until your opponent makes a positioning mistake, and then you pounce on that flank or the exposed heroes or whatever, cool death, kill 20 to 30 models, hopefully, and then scramble for objectives or do whatever you need to do. And it's got the might to do it. It's got the killing power to do it. The only weak point in the combat front is Gamling, obviously, and even then, he can still do bits against Fight 3 and some Fight 4. It's a really nice list. We saw quite a few variants of it over the weekend. There was a couple of troop-heavy ones with lots of riders.
One of those came like 5th, 4th, 5th, something like that.
Yeah, that would be Mikolai. Yeah.
Do you think 550 points is where Riders of Theoden slot in? Like that's their points?
I think this version works really well at 550. I played them at 500, which is a similar list with I had 8 models. I think the double captain. I don't rate the heavy armor shield personally, but you could probably get another captain in if you drop 2 of the Royal Guard as well. and then the heavy armor and shields. But it also, like, that's just taste, seasoning, you know. Really, death is the thing that you're paying for, and it is very good. And I think maximizing death is just hysterical. You know, the turns where I play throw death and then you roll a 4 high in every combat and it literally just doesn't matter. You just kill everything anyway. It's like, yeah, gameplay. At 550, there's not a lot that can really stand up and say no. And if it does have Fight 5, which is one of the main things that Riders of Theoden doesn't like, it probably doesn't have the numbers. So if you run in, call death, call strikes on all the guys who can, you'll probably still win and kill in all those fights. And then you've wiped out their entire front line and they're trying to rub together 10 models at that point, you know.
You're not seeing enough elves or dragon emperor or
they're just not that viable at 550. Because I mean, even the hoardiest elves you can get at 550 is going to be less than 30 models, I think.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be at most 26? And that'll be Lothlorien with Haldir.
What sort of points level then do you think Riders starts to tail off
at? 700.
700, yeah.
We've seen it. It still works.
We've seen it perform previously this year in, I think, the GT, and was there another tournament which it did quite well in?
There's been a couple that's landed on the podium.
Yeah.
I kind of think that really the solution is just keep adding captains.
Yeah. It's the old Warhammer 40k Smash captain is what you should be doing, which is just give them a horse, send them in, pierce up to strength 6. If they kill 4 models that turn, you call death. Great. If they don't, hopefully your opponent's blown some resources to try and kill them. It's why when I ran at 800 points, just pure hero, every named hero, 3 captains. It's just a lot of fun. You just run in and kill stuff.
Yeah, I think that's what I would do. I think I'd drop Elf Helm and have a few Royal Guard at that point, and then that's my favorite version. Yeah,
Elf Helm at higher points definitely just kind of gets ruined by anything.
He's just going to bounce off a lot of stuff. He's only D6.
Yeah.
Also, the bonus of having 100 captains is when you play Fog of War, they forget which one they're targeting.
Yeah.
That's big brain.
Bim, Joe, or Frank.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's why I painted all of mine vibrantly different colors because
red,
I would forget. It is red, blue. Oh yeah, you borrowed my models. That's right.
Yeah, I played them at 700 with I think I had 15 models.
Yeah,
7 Royal Guard, 6 hero. No, it must have been more than that. No,
I was just updating the podium places, and this does put Riders of Theoden joint second now with Isengard in terms of 100 podiums.
I think Riders of Theoden, people have zeroed in on it as a possible answer to Black Numenorians.
Yeah,
because heroes don't struggle to charge because realistically they have the will to spend and they have high courage, and then they go in and they smash the entire front line, and then that list just sort of doesn't really hold up once the Black Numenorians are dead. And the magicians, which is a funny way of putting it, can't really answer that many heroes.
Yeah,
you just have to be afraid of like a Spider Queen or something chucking models around.
You don't have enough time to, on the way in, you can't be like, okay, well, I'll sap Will Theoden and then next turn I'll immobilize him. He can realistically do the one turn of tanking 2 spells or whatever from your casters, and then just go in, call death, and then at the end of that turn, you've probably killed enough of the models for it to not matter anymore. The casters can cast, but there's no models for them. There's no battle line left.
Anyway,
moving on to first place. First place was Mr. Stephen Denby, a very handsome man, with Goblin Town. In fact, specifically John's Goblin Town army, which I very kindly was lent for the weekend. I also had the list written for me, which was very nice.
Who wrote the list for you, Stephen?
You wrote the list for me.
Wow. I think that totaled to 50 of your points.
John, run me through the list.
So this list that Stephen expertly piloted to his first GBHL 100 win is 70 of your finest Goblin Townies. You've got the Goblin King with Gollum, 23 goblins, Grinner, 18 goblins, Goblin Captain, 18 goblins, and the Goblin Scribe with 6 goblins. So 70 models in total, 0 bows, 1 potential projectile weapon, 1 ring, 9 might. 2.
Don't forget the Scourge.
Grinner has a Scourge, bruv.
Yeah.
It didn't do anything all weekend.
Yeah, I've used an awful lot of Goblin Town. I don't think I've ever actually whipped with Grinner.
Yeah, he has a 5+ shoot value, so even when he charges, it's not happening that much.
Yeah. I went into the tournament being like, "Hey, John, what's good at 550?" Which is the anti-John question, because normally John's the one asking the question. John said, "Goblin Town's all right," and I was like, "Okay, can I borrow yours?"
I think I said Arnold was best, but you didn't.
Oh yeah, I was like, that sounds boring. Essentially, when all the scenarios come up that are good for numbers, and the only killing pool scenario that comes up is Contest of Champions, Goblin Town are really good at this points level, because I think I only broke twice, 3 times maybe, most. The Goblin King was rolling a lot of natty 6s to just hurl into things, hurl goblins. I did play a Goblin Town mirror match, and I had priority on the shoot. I lost priority, but my opponent decided not to shoot with his Goblin King. So my Goblin King picked up a goblin, threw it at his Goblin King, went through the in the way, knocked his Goblin King prone, which meant his Goblin King couldn't then get on the central objective, which was potentially game winning. I do have to say, special shout out to the Goblin Scribe. Just absolutely game breaking in certain scenarios. I know I did chat with John about whether Mercenaries or the Scribe was the best option. And I kind of settled on the Scribe. Obviously, Mercenaries are really good for recon. But the Scribe, when scenarios that come up were firstly retrieval, excellent. Domination, amazing. Storm the Camp, absolutely incredible. Divide and Conquer came up, which was amazing for just getting onto the objectives on turn 2 and then just having dudes there that couldn't be knocked off immediately. It's also really good for heirlooms, to dig up your opponent's heirlooms. That was pretty funny. I'm trying to remember what the other scenario was. It wasn't particularly useful in Clash by Moonlight, but
I think on the whole, I prefer the Scribe in every single scenario except recon.
Yeah.
Because for those that don't know, you have to bring in your Scribe reinforcements on your home board edge. And also the Scribe is more impactful the lower the points level you go, because you get relatively more value out of him each time he rings on some goblins.
Yeah.
I still think it's good for recon, though.
Yeah, because you can sit at your board edge and just mass up goblins and then go for it.
Yeah, or even you can just walk forward and then have goblins coming on to where they look like their cav might break through. You're like, there's another couple of goblins that you have to go through.
Yeah,
that's another goblin. Because like one of the main strengths of one of the main things that's nice about models not coming on in recon, like normally you want them on, especially in smaller points. But if you have a warband that's especially if it's got archers and they have to like commit to their line, and then you say, oh, here they are. With the Scribe, you don't even have to do that. You can just be like, right. Come on, boys. Although, obviously, he has to be on the board to do that, and he doesn't have any might, so he might not show up for a few turns.
Yeah.
The one absolute crippling weakness of this list was revealed when I played David Clubley in Game 6. Well, actually, I also played Ash Wolder and had the same problem. But especially against Dave Clubley, you cannot fight Black Numenorians with a Ring Wraith behind them. You will not be able to charge them. They will get preferential fights. They will kill you. I think he broke me in 3 turns of combat, and I killed 4 models in total that game. Fortunately, it was an objective scenario, and I dug up the heirloom. So, but yeah, that is why you will not see it at higher points.
Skill diff, that is right there.
Yeah. Well, that was very much. I got very lucky that game because
absolutely
I had the opportunity. I had the opportunity to dig up 4 prizes. He had a banner and I didn't, so I had to dig up, or I would just lose if we both camped on one objective, as is the heirloom's way. And I just got lucky and rolled the 6. Nothing more to it. This list gets absolutely ruined by Terror Walls and Harbinger, which I did play 3 times. But like I say, objective scenarios.
Absolutely ruined. I mean, clearly it has mitigating circumstances. Like, yeah, if you're playing Lords of Battle against it, sure, but you're going to lose Lords of Battle anyway, realistically. unless you're playing a mirror match, and then it's going to be a real weird one.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a fun list.
Congratulations to Steve.
Thank you.
Good job,
the
man.
big dog, as we have to call him now, as soon as contract.
Yeah, it's in my contract. If you ever feel like playing Goblin Town, do it. It's pretty fun. They're pretty good. They're also hilarious because you can just. I lost 9 models to a chariot charge in a game versus Jakob Krockmal, and I was just like, yeah, fair enough. Like a lawnmower through butter. But yeah, moving on to the reason why we've got Jay on. Mountain Goats Gaming hosted a tournament.
What the heck?
Hell yeah, we did. Yeah, well, I did anyway. It was my first tournament, and I wanted to. So I'm running 2 this year. This one's the small one to make sure that I don't fuck up the big one, basically. So all the testing out of this, the program that we're using and all that sort of stuff was tested and worked, and it was really cool. So I need to shout out the local boy, Battle Game Terrain Studio, Hamish and Shane. They do some incredible full thematic boards. So you're not just playing on a gaming mat, you're playing on Mount Doom or a Rohan village somewhere with this big massive rock cliff, or we have full Osgiliath, a 6x4 foot table as well with the big old resin pour at the end. And it was just it definitely made it feel like a bit more special for a single day event. So this is equivalent to your GBHL 90 points. In Queensland, we have a Queensland League 100 point. Your 100s are our 120 points. We just have to be a bit more special. So
it's the conversion rate, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If it was that, it'd be like 180 and 200.
Yeah, true.
So this was 700 points. It was 3 games over 1 day, and hosted in good old sunny Queensland. And it was actually sunny that day, so it was really nice.
Nice. Was there a specific scenario pool it was picked from? Was it all random? Was it?
So it was veto, and I just rolled random pools.
Okay, nice. So people went into it knowing that they had the opportunity to veto certain scenarios, because that obviously is
veto.
Quite indicative of list picking.
Is that the standard generally in Australia, or is it a bit like our side where each tournament's individual?
Right, we're so flimsy with that sort of shit. Sometimes people in Queensland specifically prefer veto as a whole. They couldn't give a shit whether it was pool veto or just random veto. They just prefer to have the option. And I think that's because we don't have nowhere near as many tournaments as what you guys do. So, playing veto 4 weekends in a row, that will get pretty, monotonous. Where over here, it's I get to play maybe once or, every second month. So veto allows more armies to have a choice and a bit of a game before the game, which is why I think, specifically in Queensland, people are really enjoying it. I'm definitely going to try and start doing more tournaments with, we'll do a pool veto, we'll do a random, veto, like what Dewey's event just was. And then we'll just do a random roll off and piss people off and play Storm the Camp on the last one.
Well, we played a lot of divisive scenarios in this tournament. We played Storm the Camp, Heirlooms, and Contest of Champions, which are all infamously mostly disliked by the UK lot.
I got to play against Hobbits for Contest. Great Beasts crushed, I think, 27 Hobbits in the end, that game.
It's nice to hear that you agree with the spice of life kind of theory, Jay, because I think that's what really makes a tournament scene good in any place, is just having you don't just see the same 700 point tournament over and over and over and over again. Different points level, different.
800 over and over again.
Why stop there? 805.
Oh,
horrible. Cringe. Let's have a little chat about the Hobby Awards. I didn't get as many best painted photos as we normally did, unfortunately. Part of me.
No, nor did I.
Yeah, well, that's why. But best painted was Thomas P. with what I assume is Grand Army of the South, or was it just standard Mahud?
Far
No, it wasn't the Grand Army of the South. It was just the
war leader.
Mahud war leader with Suladan. I think he had a couple of camels, a couple of serpent riders, and some just basic dudes on the top. Notably, he didn't have throwing rocks, which is so sad when taking the Womack, but he could have had fun. Look, this photo here specifically doesn't do that Womack justice. There's freehand pretty much all over that big old elephant, and Jesus, it was really cool. So Thomas has done a great job.
Yeah, we can see the kind of line texturing just about on the legs and the skin and the tusks, which is really gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean,
every time
I love the War Leader. It's probably the best way to use the Mimic. I'm interested that he didn't use Grand Army, because I think all of that stuff you described is in Grand Army of the South. You can have Suladan in there, but I
can't check it.
Yeah, the main thing with the War Leader is you don't actually get the choice of upgrades on it, which is a bit of a shame. Like it comes with certain upgrades, but you can't have other ones as well. Like I'd love if you could have repelling lines, because I think that's so much fun. But you can't on the War Leader. It's set with you just get the sigil of defiance, tusk weapons, and gnarled hide. But it is the Fight 5 Mimic, which is like the best thing about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so Grand Army of the South. There you go. I got the actual list here. So it was Suladan with a horse, and he took the bow. He's got 4 servant riders. He's then got the Mumak War Leader. He's got 4 Mahud Raiders and 8 Haradrim warriors with bows.
That's cool.
Yeah,
the coolest thing about the Mahud War Leader in the Grand Army is it is one of the only ways that a Mumuk, like a war beast itself, can strike.
Yeah.
Because if you're fighting the enemy leader, fight 5, then you strike. It's like, ooh, someone's going to get crushed.
Yeah.
Teehee. And you win a move roll off and kill their entire army. It's like, oh no.
And you counter their move roll off, so you just stop them from happening.
Well, you get on a 4+, you just kill their first. Basically, you force them to spend a second might point. It's nasty. Or like with another hero. If they only have one hero, you just too bad.
We also had
gets rid of it. Yeah.
Most Sporting was Danny G.
Danny. Yeah, he's my sparring partner. He was running a 54 model Arnor army.
And he got most Sporting.
My information is telling me this is a 700 point tournament.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mimik War Leader, Suladan, and a couple of models, and Arnor with 54 is like 700. 700.
Yeah.
700.
Let's move on to some lists in which we will see a couple of old friends. Firstly, we had Carl, I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher your surname, Schonbeck, maybe Skonbeck, with a Mordor list that is a little bit spicy.
I think it's
definitely different to what you lads will see over there. So Carl's a fellow goat, and this is his first podium place. So I said 3rd, and Carl was like, "The fuck out of here!" Anyway, so he was super excited. I'm super happy for him. Do you want me to read through the list?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, please do.
He's got the Witch King with 3 might, 3 fate, and the crown. No more extra will. This is a super duper budget. 7 black numbs, 7 runners with spear, no shield. A singular Morannon Orc with the banner, shield, and spear. A singular Morgul Knight. He's then got the Mordor Troll Chieftain, not the beefy chiefy option. 5 Orc Warriors with bow, 5 Orc Warriors with shield, a singular Orc Tracker. Orc Captain, no upgrades, 2 Wide Riders with shield, and then 5 Orc Warriors with spear, and 2 Mortal Siege Bows.
So of course,
this is interesting.
This list brings me joy.
Somewhere Elliot Clode is like,
yeah,
Siege Bows.
A horseless Witch King pains me.
Yeah, so what I like about this list is that Carl's probably at least vaguely aware of what the optimal choices are, and then has gone, nah, fuck off. Orc trackers?
Exactly.
No, I'm going to pay an extra.
He's got one tracker.
I know.
5 orcs with bow. That's just madness.
I think that's probably a WYSIWYG statement. He said, I've only got one tracker, and therefore I'll only take one tracker.
Well, big ups for the thing is, like, actually, the Mordor Troll Chieftain, they're awkward to use because they don't have like monster charge and everything, and they don't have a lot of stuff. I mean, the 3rd might point that the beefy chiefy gets is really nice, but actually, with magic support, a Fight 7 base hero, like even Shelob is great at this, but a Fight 7 base hero that can strike is like, ooh, and he's strength 7. So if you compel an enemy hero, I mean, yeah, he's no Spider Queen, but he is still very beefy.
He's pretty good. And then like testing this list out, he had Shelob in there, and I think he loved playing like Shelob. And I think personally Shelob works nicely because I think he just runs into warband space at that point, which is hence why he's then switched over to the chieftain for whatnot. But to be honest with you, this is a nearly 6-7 month win for me because Carl, I told him, and I play Magic, and I said to him, I was like, bro, you just got to play the Witch King. Just try it. He's like, no, fuck Magic. Magic is shit. And I'm like, okay. So the one time this man goes to a tournament and brings Magic, he gets third. So this is hilarious.
Vindicated.
We've been preaching the Australians have too many big heroes. Why don't they use more Magic meta from afar? Not actually really knowing much about the tournament results.
AKA flicking peanuts and booing.
Yeah. But I just love that he's got 2 siege bows in there.
Yeah. I think siege bows are really funny because they are essentially as good as an Isengard ballista, but they shoot worse. So like a lot of games they'll do nothing, and then you'll have one game where you hit like 4 times and your opponent is like, God damn, siege bows are cracked, and you're like, wahaha, just ruining that one guy who didn't think that your siege bows were going to hit anything, because they're really cheap.
It's mind games. They're super cheap, and it's pure mind games. Like it's just a case of I've got this lane. Where's your horse? Where's that hero? I can potentially just go.
Yeah,
and they still got a mind point behind them too. So
they allow for maximum anxiety induction in your opposition. Like you charge their big hero with one guy, and you're like, right, shoot the big hero, and you're like, oh, I missed. Oh, but next time, how good can you roll? Yeah, I think it's fun.
Lovely.
Maybe I should get some.
So let's move on to the second place list. It's another Witch King.
What the hell?
You'd love to see it. This one's spicy as well.
There's Amdo.
Ooh.
Yeah. The Easterlings, red-headed stepchild, Amda, Lord of Blades.
What the hell?
Chad.
I'll run through this one. Sorry, John, I've just stolen your thunder. So it's an Easterling and Mordor alliance. We had the Witch King of Angmar, of course, 3 might, 3 additional fate, 4 additional will, Crown of Morgul horse, which is what I'd say is almost the UK standard build. Morannon Orc with Banner Shield Spear, 6 Morannon Orcs with Shield Spear, 7 Black Numenorians, Gurrett's Master of Reserve for that lovely march and also Maelstroming, 4 Morannon Orcs with Spear and 5 with Spear and Shield. And then we had Amda, Lord of Blades, on an armored horse with 4 Eastling Warriors with Pike Shield, 4 with Shield, and 4 Pike Shield Black Dragons. That's a spicy meatball.
So he's not taken a banner. Oh, he's got a banner. He's got a real banner, and he's got the Amda banner. Well, I mean, it's not a banner, but it's a banner effect. I think it's interesting that he's essentially got 3 separate mini battle lines.
Yeah, I think there's a classic in-turn blunder on the 4 Morannon Orcs. They should be 4 Morannons with shield.
Yeah, I was okay. That makes sense because he's got like a little mini Morannon block. He's got a classic Black Nun and Morannon block, and then he's got a little mini Easterling Pike block, which is only 4 wide, which is interesting.
But when you combine it all together,
yeah. Well, I mean,
you've still got your Black Nun line, you've still got Morannos to back it up, and if need be, you just kind of put your Terror where it's going to be, most efficient for the game.
I mean, the thing is, they may not be the best heroes available. Like, Amda is not exactly, I hate to keep saying it, but he's no Spider Queen, but at the same time, like he is a Fight 6 evil hero, and there's not that many of those. He is riding an armored horse. He does give himself a banner, so he's relatively reliable. I'd like to see him be D7, but it's fine. He's got some cheeky rules when it comes to dealing with enemy heroes, and being Fight 6, he might actually get to use them, unlike some Fight 5 evil heroes that just sort of don't really get to do that. And most of all, this kind of makes me think of an actual combined army. It sort of makes me think of like you got the little evil Witch King's troop and his little unit, and it's like very like Warhammer Fantasy in a way. And then you've got your little Easterling block, and you've got your little Orky block, I think like very far from optimized, but actually has a good amount of stuff it can do, and like none of those things are bad. Like Amdir isn't bad; he's just too many points. You know what I mean? Like, and also I love seeing less used models.
I'm a big fan of Goretz. I think he has a really nice role for those Maelstrom anxious players like me. Yeah. Also giving you March. He's actually also surprisingly good at cracking open heavily armored foes.
Fight up to strength 6 with a two-handed pick if you want to.
Yeah, I'm not at all claiming he's optimal. I just think he's neat.
Well, I mean, in this list, you need a marcher, so it's him or a basic ring wraith, really.
Yeah,
either one works, and I think you're a bit low on models for a basic ring wraith. Yeah. I tell you what, though, when you play with this, so you see the Dragon Emperor Legion, and then you look at how expensive Black Dragon Pikes are outside of it. It's like, bloody hell. No wonder Acelings weren't played before that list came out.
Did you say Dragon Emperor Legendary Legion?
Yeah, right.
Whoa!
Oh, I've accidentally had third place. Sam Johnson. No, sorry. This is genuinely an intern error because he sent me the results twice, and on both occasions they were ranked incorrectly. So I actually went and watched the Mountain Goats Walking and Get video to check yours and Sean's actual account of who won.
In third place.
In first place, hang on, let me annotate that. We'll,
first place.
In first, that's 15T. Yeah.
Yeah.
In 15th place, we had Mr. Sam Johnston. Who said, I don't like the fun Australian lists. I'm going to take something more optimal.
You just have 3 Black Dragon Cataphracts, though.
I said more optimal. I didn't say fully optimal.
He hasn't even got axes on them. What a madman.
Oh. Cries in British meta.
Yeah, right.
I'll tell you what.
This is not what we see in the GBHL.
Looking at Australian lists really makes me want to go play in Australia, where everyone just seems to be having a grand old time playing just like whatever the hell they feel like. Run us through this one, Jay.
Oh, got the Dragon Emperor, 3 Cataphracts, Black Dragon upgrade. He's got the drum. He's then got 14 Easterling Black Dragons with shield and pike. He's then got Rutabi. Sam calls her Rutabi, and it actually gives me an aneurysm listening to that. He's then got 10 Easterling Warriors with just a shield, and then Brogear with 3 Dragon Acolytes, coming in at 34 models, 700 on the dot with 0 bows.
I'm definitely going to start calling her Rutabi. That sounds like a lot of fun.
I call her Rabuta Gilliman.
Isn't Rabuti a character from RuneScape, or is that Gabuti?
RuneScape,
anyway,
Jesus Christ.
I just remembered his name because it's got booty in it.
I think there is a RuneScape character called, I think he's on Karamja, I want to say.
Anyway, get axes on those Dragon Cult Acolytes, my friend. I do like that he's not spent any points on Black Dragons. 34 models is really low, actually, though. But I guess with Vita, you can make it work.
Can confirm Gabuti is a character from RuneScape on Tai Wowana on the island of Karamja.
Yeah.
So well done.
Randomly remembering things.
So how far off the optimal in inverted commas Dragon Emperor build do we think this is?
Drop all the Cataphracts and at least one of the Acolytes to get more numbers in, I think.
Well, I think, I mean, if you wanted to optimize this, just changing those 3 Cataphracts for the rest of like filling out the Black Dragon Pikes, because this is one of the lists that suffers the most from the points increase, like the ones where you want to have a few Cataphracts and some Acolytes and stuff. I don't think it's bad, but I think what I would do is if I wanted to max it out, effectiveness, you keep the drum obviously, and then you use a drum and 17 Black Dragon Pikes with the Emperor, a smattering of shields with Rutabi, and then like a kind of some regular pike shield guys, so that you can like put your Black Dragons at the back and just have a pike connecting the two, because it saves some points that way. But I mean, like Cataphracts, especially in the Legion, are actually very good, especially with axes. I mean, I love the axe Cataphracts because 5/5. I mean, you then have a budget Royal Guard, for 14 points rather than 15. basically, and Raw Guard are really good.
I think cataphracts are really nice if you take a couple of the Dragon Knights to accompany them as well. You've kind of got like a 3 main hit squad, so the 2 cataphracts and the Dragon Knight. That's really cute and can slap aside really nicely. But I think like Sam played. Oh Jesus! He versed the Bears in one of the killy scenarios, and then he fought we had a Barrowite spam as well, so we had like 6 Barrowites and the Witch King as well.
Okay.
That was the final game, and I forget who his first matchup was, but like the overall theme to like Sam's games and just the Dragon Emperor is they are just so consistently consistent that they're always going to do well, and that is their whole thing. Like, the rest of it, sure, it's all great, but you put all that shit aside and you look at it from a holistic point of view. This is one of the most consistent armies that will just not shit the bed for you.
It also has really interesting interactions with Paralyze, because you can't knock him prone. So he just kind of stands there on his chair. It's still a banner. It's still a fight value buff. Just can't move or fight.
You just leave like 6 models in base contact with him. Roll 7d6 every turn to recover from Paralyze.
Yeah,
it's like paralyzing a war beast. It's pointless because everyone in the Howdah can roll to revive it, and it doesn't even get knocked prone.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, he's a very bad target for Paralyze. That Barrowite player probably felt a little bit hard done by that.
You've also got the Black Dragons. Suddenly, you get a benefit from having the bonus courage against an Angmar list, because you suddenly go, actually, I might be able to charge some things. That would be nice.
I mean, you're just going to throw up Fury on Brogear anyway, aren't you?
Oh, true. Yeah.
That's the other thing about this list. It's just, Rutabi Brogear Emperor, I think it's best at 750, 800, but that shit is such a strong core because you don't need to worry about March because you have the drum. So it's fine. You're laughing.
Yeah.
So we've recognised that these lists are maybe not quite how we build them over in the UK. This event, Jay did tell us, was the equivalent of a 90, but do you think this is similar, Jay, to the kind of things that you'd get at one of your 120-point Queensland League events?
I definitely think with the 120-point events, the 2 days, typically people commit a hell of a lot more to.
Yeah.
You would see more optimized, more. I think on the podium you would see more this Dragon Emperor one, where it's like this is definitely a top pick. There's a couple of changes that you Brits would make here and there, where us Australians are like, well, unfortunately we have to pay $700 for a singular model because it comes over from somewhere overseas. So like legit actually holding models, if you don't just want to go and print your life away, is definitely a real thing. But I definitely think there's a huge step up from the 100 to 120 point lists, definitely.
Well, it just means we'll have to get you back on when you run your 120 event and we get the list from that.
It'll be really interesting to see, because if we see the GBHL's versions of shit lists winning, I mean, it'd be really cool.
There's always occasionally happen. I mean, we had Army of Dunland on the podium a couple of times. So,
yeah, they're just sick.
It happens.
It's not that you guys aren't competitive, because we all know about Tom Bombadil Gate. You guys experienced this year, and we all laughed from the UK going, oh, you're only like 10 years behind everyone else.
Well, I mean, Bombadil, I mean, I remember that. I remember seeing the American scene go through that as well a few years ago, and we'd already had our little Bombadil disaster.
Yeah,
it always happens.
It always happens.
Broken.
Especially if people forget, because history is a very important thing to remember. If you forget about
Galadriel said about that.
Yeah.
Things that should not have been forgotten were lost.
Exactly.
Like that an inch and 25.4 millimeters. Something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The most important thing when it comes to those sections is you open the rule book and you point them at the first rule, which is the most important rule, which is basically don't be a twat. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Right. Moving on from the lovely Australian lists, which were totally unlike anything we've ever seen in the UK ever, I swear. Let's move on.
To be fair, that second list was pretty conclusively. I don't think I've ever seen something like that do well at 100.
Yeah.
It's fair. Also like noting. So Nick actually hasn't run that list. Like he didn't practice with that list at all. He just wanted to paint through the army together, and then came to the day and ended up getting second, which is hilarious. So
Amder is clearly too strong.
Amder's great. D6 is all you need.
He's cracked.
Let's move on.
Points for him, please.
Some comments.
Everyone's favourite.
Well, we like to stroke our own egos. On, you start us off, please.
So, Free Run DJs, Dirk, fan of the pod, friend of the pod, says, first off, he's going to be pedantic. If a model has to two-hand but gets to keep a 6, there is only a 4 out of 6 chance of -1, not 5 out of 6, as you can go below 1. Next,
you can never go below 1.
As you can never go below 1. So that's correcting Dave, who has clearly lost.
That was Stephen who said that.
Correct me.
I wasn't on the. I don't think I was on the podcast last week. Was I?
I don't think I said. If he is correcting me, then I have an absolute sieve for a brain.
I wasn't on the podcast, Dave. So
no, Stephen, you were all over the podcast. Your shoddy mathematics has let us down for the last time.
I think that's all we need to say about that comment. So moving on to the next one.
No, we would like people to chip in for a lobster costume. Yes, please.
Yeah, we've looked into this. It's possible.
So if that is, of course, my foolish bet that if episode 26 gets over 100 likes, I will wear a lobster costume to both days of the main event at Ardacon. Currently, I think it's on 25 or 26 likes, depending on whether I've liked it or unliked it.
I'm going to go quickly check that. Keep going.
I'm feeling pretty safe.
I'm logging into my alts to do some like.
I've just liked it.
Sam 27. Barker 930 says, "Hi guys, thanks for answering my question. It's interesting to hear top table players talk about their mistakes when they're expected to do so well. Of course, this is referring to now Stephen and Dave, and probably Jay, certainly not myself. What are the worst mistakes you've made recently, and how did you rectify? How would you have rectified them? Thanks." Well, in my recent Lorcana tournament that I've won and waited this long to talk about, I made 0 mistakes because I won the tournament and I'm really clever. Stephen, what about you?
In my recent tournament, which I just won, having gone 5 wins and 2 draws, I did actually make a couple of mistakes. Most important thing to do when you make a mistake is to learn from it and to not ruin your mental game. I knew it was the last turn of the game and I had some spare might and I didn't use a turret combat, which probably could have won me the game if I had. That's a bit of a mistake. I also made a mistake with Contest of Champions where I didn't choose to strike a chariot with all my dudes before my leader then did the strikes. So I had to take the in the ways, which was a bit of a boo-boo, but I'd already won that game, so it didn't matter too much. I'm not sure those are really terrible mistakes. They're just not optimal mistakes. Not using your might when you really should be. It's probably not ideal.
What about you, Jay?
Probably one of the most standout mistakes for me was I was versing. It was my younger brother actually in a tournament, and he was playing Fountain Court Spam with Boromir, and I was playing the Bjornings. We were playing Breakthrough, and I stupidly didn't send both bears straight up the guts, within 6 inches of each other. I kept one bear back towards the middle, to ward off a couple of cav that were going to, I say Huron and another fella, from jumping into my back objective. I should have sent both bears straight through because, Fountain Court can't deal with that, and then kept a couple of Bjornings in the back and just taken the charge and realized we're still the same fight. But I realized a little bit too late and I was going to be losing because of it. And then I managed to pull out a draw instead. So frustrating in the sense that was definitely my game to lose. But yeah, definitely for next time. And, anytime I verse the Bears, immediately how the bear player moves is depending on how I react as to how seriously I'll take the game as well. So yeah, I think it was really good. And often a lot of the times going back and looking at your games, either in a tournament or at a garage that you're practicing in, is the best way to learn. And I think you need to be open and forgiving with yourself in the sense of I'm human. I can make mistakes, but I learn the most when I do make the mistakes. Like, no one's got a perfect run, full stop.
Yeah. Well, I spent all of this weekend just past making lots of mistakes, partially not knowing the rules as well as I should, because War Beasts have an absolute crap ton of rules that I basically never spent a lot of time reading. I was using 2 Great Beasts, so getting the ruling right was important. And there's lots of stuff, like when you use an army you've never used before, especially when it's got a troop type you've never used before, it's very easy to make blunders that you don't really feel like blunders until later. The old blunder that, I mean, I've played two in a row of like lists that are very different to what I normally use, and I think I'm pretty adaptable, but I'm not that great at immediately intuiting how something new works. So yeah, the Great Beast, for example, like it feels important to spend might to come on and try and trample something in a Maelstrom, but actually not having the might was really important later, and it completely nullified the usefulness of the beast. And it's like, but also because obviously Maelstrom is Maelstrom, so rolling a 3, and if I had a 5, I had an opportunity to kill a hero, which it didn't end up working anyway, so it was definitely a waste. But if I had killed him, or at least wasted all his might, that might have felt a bit more useful. But actually, in the end of the day, I think I had to play a really long game. I had to let them put my Great Beasts wherever they would be, and then just run away until I can link up with each other and just start rolling around. Because, yeah, it feels important to get stuck in, but actually getting stuck in a way where you actually have an ability to win a... Because like the main way that Great Beasts do the best damage is when they're both sort of 12 inches apart with an ability to trample something important, and you call heroic moves with both of them, and it's like, cool. So someone's getting tagged and someone's getting fucked, and that's just going to happen. You can't stop it. Whereas if you allow one of them to run out of might, suddenly they become way easier to deal with. But like, that's easy to see in retrospect. But in the moment, I'm like, well, I could just flatten a hero here, and that's, it feels like an appealing option. Obviously a lot of things went wrong that game, but I could have made it easier for myself by not wasting my might points, which was a bigger mistake than I thought it would be. So, go figure.
Yeah. I also made a really big mistake when I said I was casting a spell on Lurtz, and I meant to be casting it on Vrasku. I did that last weekend, and I did the whole roll, and he did the whole resist, and then afterwards I was like, I've transfixed the wrong model because I'm an idiot.
A bit late to say, oh, actually, I meant to do that on Lurtz. It's like, what?
Yeah. Oh God, that was a bit of a biff. Rory Duckett, 2665 said, had a blast at the Wolf Slayer last week. It's great meeting some of you and chatting all things hobby. Felt very lucky to have been awarded Best Painter alongside John's ridiculous display board. I also went 2 and 4 at my first 100, so the weekend couldn't have gone much better, really. Another great pod, guys. Keep it up. Will we see some of you at the last stand of the Ents next month? That's in Norwich, I believe.
Yep, he'll see me and Elliot Clode there.
Excellent. He also says, looking forward to hearing and seeing more about your next project, Dave. Keep it up. The Rangers looked so good. They did look so good.
Oh, poor sweetie. Yeah, not as nice as Roy's army.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Yeah,
I particularly liked his Legolas conversion, and the freehand on Thorin's. I hesitate to call it a skirt outfit. was really good.
Yeah,
I decided that motivated me to purchase a wet palette finally, or the means to use a wet palette after many years of painting using the lid of a candy box. So I've been trying to avoid. This is my palette of shame. I've been trying to avoid peeling the paint off of it for a really long time. And there's like 5 millimeters of paint in the middle now. It's very satisfying.
Impressive.
But yeah, that shit's done now. I'm a new man. It's wet palette time.
For the Rangers,
wet palette days. Yeah, more Rangers. Just more Rangers.
1,200 points of Rangers. All Rangers all the way down.
Yeah, it's Rangers all the way down, baby.
Moving on to the next comment from, if my things would work, that would be great. Jimmy Gravy 2, commenting to answer farmers' questions. Favourite list was, of course, my list. In terms of pointing out your mistakes, you totally misfight sixth the Lothlorien and Rohan list, as it also had Galadriel in it. making it 6 fight 6 models, not 5.
I've had to listen to him say this to me twice.
Wow.
In person, on Discord, and now in comment form as well.
My favorite episode.
I should not have suggested that people correct me. Never correct me again, David.
How dare you? My question to you guys is, which is your favorite episode you've recorded? I like all of my episodes equally. They're all my children that I love, but probably this one because I actually got to talk about one of my lists, which was nice.
I think probably Nations Cup, one of the 10 different Nations Cup coverage episodes that we did.
Yeah.
I just loved the Nations Cup, so it was very fun to relive that weekend.
Jay, what's your favorite video you've made so far?
Fuck, I don't know.
You don't have to say the one with John on it.
No, that was good actually, because I looked at the graph and I managed to pull out a few points and I was like, Jesus, I sound a hell of a lot smarter than what I actually am. Yeah, let's go that one. That was pretty fun, and it's something near and dear to my heart, with like the team's side to it. Coming from 40K, it's definitely something that I'm going to start pushing down under. So if we can find an extra 15,000 to send a single person, let alone a team over for Nations Cup, we will be there in force.
Just get some government funding, right? It's like an Olympics program, but with dice instead.
Mate, if we had like 0.05 of some of the mining, we would be there. But anyway, here we are.
Dave, what's your favorite episode, and why was it the Bubbles one?
No, it wasn't. I'm just scrolling through them just to sort of jog my memory about the titles, and I particularly like the ambitiously titled Nations Cup Vlog number 1. That was number 2, guys.
The best part of that was like I made this massive effort. We got in and I'd like filmed everything, and then I went into a hotel room and I edited it and I uploaded it. And then the next day I was just so tired at the end of the day. I was just like
that Saturday was one of the, I think probably the most knackered I've ever felt after a tournament day of any day. It was crazy. I think getting to grips with all the admin and everything, it completely cooked my brain. So I'm not surprised we didn't get any more done, because
I almost fell asleep in the bath, which could have been catastrophic.
That would have been bad for Induce's chances day 2. Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, I was woken up at 5 a.m. in the morning by Stephen punching me in the face. So that was quite fun.
And bring out punching people in the face. You're still on probation after last week. Well, no, still hurt. I've got a bruise.
Oh, God.
Well, if you punch Stephen in the face, everything will be right in the world, Dave.
Yeah, true.
Give me that trophy, Stephen.
Beardy Fluffbag, Chris Ryder, said Battle of Britain had a special rule each round, one of which was extra fight on the Warriors. So fight 6 to 7 was a big jump to screw heroes.
Okay.
Sorry, that is something I did miss, is that there were a bunch of special rules on Battle of Britain.
What the hell?
Actually, I missed it. I didn't do the podcast last week, so the intern missed it.
You missed it.
I did miss a Gilgalad Galadriel list winning, though, which was quite upsetting.
I'm picturing you in the shower, just like...
The intern missing things is part of our charm, to be honest.
Yeah, that's just part of our rustic charm.
Who's
Mark
your
O'Brien,
intern, Jay? Is it you or is it Sean?
I was going to say Jay is probably the intern because he's the newest one, right?
Yeah.
Mark O'Brien at 2481 says, "I'm seeing double here. 4 Daves."
It's a good reference. Like that.
Yeah, nice.
That was a cheeky little Simpsons reference.
Intern. I thought that was in another intern moment.
It's a classic intern blunder, like starting a land war in Asia. Duncan Peacock.
That was John's fault as well, actually.
Says, another great video. Going to be helping run an event later in the year. I was wondering what your preferences with regards to scenarios: fixed, veto, random, etc. Personally, I lean towards fixed, as I enjoy building lists towards a defined situation. Interested to hear your views.
I like fixed as well. Fixed is probably actually my favorite.
Fixed is nice, but if you do fixed, make sure you put Lords of Battle in if it's low points, because it stops Giga Hordes from just dancing all over everyone.
And contest if it's high points.
Yeah.
That's partly my. So one thing I really like about this is a fixed with some sort of wrinkle where it's like you don't actually 100% know. So a good example of that is Sterling, where they have 6 fixed scenarios, but because it's good for evil, you don't actually know which of your armies you'll be playing in every scenario. It could be either of them. So actually, yeah, there's a certain amount of like you have to prepare 2 lists for your problem. And the same with Lord of the Imps. Harry does a thing where on day 2 he'll like flip a coin between 2 scenarios, and then so I think he has fixed first 5 rounds or 4 depending on how many points it is doing. But I think this year it'll be 4 rounds day 1, and then contest game 5, and then games 6 and 7. One of them is supposed to be like a. I'm trying to remember which ones he's done. I think it's like Command the Battlefield and Fog of War versus like Breakthrough and
Assassination.
I don't think it was Assassination, but it was something a bit more.
Clash.
Yeah, Clash. And
because
so
I
it's
played
like
Clash Game 7. Yeah.
Yeah, so he'll like roll. So and then if he rolls Fog of War for game 5, then game 6 will be Breakthrough, and if he rolls Command the Battlefield game 5, game 6 will be Clash by Moonlight, which it's like it's you don't 100% know everything, but you do have one of them is going to be a bit more spread out, and one of them is going to be kill kind of vibes. At least that's the idea, which I think is pretty cool. I think like mostly fixed with a little bit of a twist, I think is a good way to do it, because I really like just knowing what I'm going to be playing, because it takes away some of the variables and makes it easier to win. But I mean, I also understand why people might like random. I've never really got into veto, but I do think veto, as you say, if you play less, veto is more likely to be a popular thing, because it's harder to be like, if you're like, well, I've got one tournament every 2 months. I don't want to be like, well, I'll just go again. You want to be like, well, I want to make the most of my one tournament with the army I want to use. Whereas if you could play again in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or even 1 month, then it feels a bit less bad to have your tournament randomly ended by some really shitty matchup luck. So yeah, that's how I feel about it anyway.
Yeah, it's like you were saying earlier, Jay. That's basically what you said regarding veto, wasn't it? I know a few other people have echoed that similar statement of the more you play, the less you like veto, because realistically, luck spikes. But if you get one weekend every 2 months, then you want to have a good time, or at least a moderate time, rather than just being like, oh, Contest of the Champions, I've got Galadriel or Denethor or
exactly,
like that. I'm against occasionally.
Just occasionally, you want to play your Rangers into Goblin Town at Lords of Battle, and you go, yay!
Ruining someone else's day.
I do think that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like list building is probably my favorite part of this hobby at the moment, and with a fixed, scenarios that you're going to play, that's definitely the best way to build lists, because you know exactly what you need to build to. I think with fixed scenarios, you're playing for a more competitive, like a high edge tournament in comparison to what, let's just say, a random veto would be. That's just my view.
Okay, moving on.
I agree with that.
Just casually muting myself. Moving on to the last comments. James Goble 1572. Shout out, James. Can we get triple webcam next week? No, sorry.
We're back to a competent host.
Yeah, we've got a special guest though, so hopefully that's good enough. I think Jay's better than having triple webcam. So,
I don't know.
And the only JP one that says my favorite podcast that debuts on Wednesdays. Well, unlike other podcasts, we don't schedule our uploads to try and nip other podcasts to the punch. Pew 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 pew. Now for Wrath Gaming says, is that Serpent Horde / Farharad list at 1240 not illegal? 8 bows out of 15. I guess you can round up. And Henry Britton, as in Battle of Britain, big shout out to him. I'm a big fan of Henry, lovely guy. Ran a charity live stream last year as well. Serpent Horde's army bonus is 50% bows, so it rounds up to 8. Got it. Didn't realize it rounded up. Very nice. What a wholesome community, answering each other's questions in a nice way. Love to see it. That's what we like to see. And I think that's it for the comments. I believe so. It is.
Well, people did deliver.
people do deliver.
Well, we were saying like last time we didn't have loads of comments, so we were like, "Come on, guys, chop chop."
Yeah,
Probably stepped up with his engagement and shamed me, and now I don't like comments anymore.
Listen, if this video gets 20 comments, I will get the intern to consider wearing a lobster costume at an event in the future.
I went back and liked the other video.
Put 20 full stops in there for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, gaming the system.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, go like last week's episode so that I get a lobster costume bought for me.
Yeah. Well,
and check out Seventh City, etc.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for coming to watch, listen, etc. Remember to comment, like, share, subscribe. Support your Hobbit hobby by going to Seventh City Collectibles. Go check out Mountain Goats Gaming. Lots of new content coming. There's also an episode with John on there. It's also got Sean Risotto on there, the Rice Man himself, the throwing weapon meme extraordinaire. Yeah, until next time, be good people and chitter chitter.
Chitter chitter.
Chitter chitter.
Bye.
Oh, you ruined it, Jay. We're gonna have to record the whole thing again.